So Ozzy, let's start with today's challenge. You knew you had to win or you were gone tonight.
Oh yeah, of course. I'm not an idiot. I knew that if I didn't win, I would be going home tonight, bottom line.
Coach, with the last tribal, you were very clear in saying, I have the hidden immunity idol. Tonight is the last night you can play that idol.
It's not so hidden anymore. Yes, I'm wearing around my neck. I mean, it'd be foolish not to play it to get into the Final Four.
We're, of course, talking for the re-airing of the South Pacific finale on CBS. So what do you remember most about filming that episode?
Of South Pacific. Oh man, digging into those old wounds.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's part of the process of getting through that trauma of having $1 million slip through your fingers.
Yeah.
All in all, that season was a really fun season for me to play. And even though I didn't come out with the win, it's still to this day one of the most enjoyable seasons. And that finale it was difficult for a lot of reasons. Part of it was, trying to get my point across to coach that he needed to change up the way he was. Well, sorry, you're talking about before the finale. So, once.
Yeah, it was the Euro elimination, the final challenge. You lost to Sophie, and then it was you trying to convince coach that he should let you go to fire through a tie, and then it went to the end.
I didn't trust that coach was going to do the right thing, which who knows what that means for anyone playing Survivor. If he had let me go to, if he had let me actually make fire with Albert, I think I would have won the game. But there's a chance that during final tribal, coach could have made a case for himself, and he's a very convincing person. So there's a chance that coach could have still won the game going against me. But the fact that, during our talks, I just didn't have any confidence in coach's word that he was going to actually take me to final. It just didn't seem like that. So my decision to kind of like expose him for, double dealing, I thought it was my only chance of really getting anywhere because, when you see the sort of your torch getting snuffed when it starts getting closer and closer to the reality, you do whatever you can to try and make it through. So, I decided to tell people about our deal, and I don't think coach is going to vote for me either way, or he was going to vote against me either way. So I don't really think it actually mattered that much, honestly.
Do you think coach would have looked better in front of the jury had he brought you to the end with him?
I think coach would have looked astronomically better, and it would have been a better season. So I think that in all reality, the way that coach went out is really tough even for me to this day because I really tried to give him the softball questions that he needed to answer in order to get the jury to vote for him. I really didn't want anyone else. If I wasn't going to win the game, I really wanted coach to be able to win that game. I think I felt like I owed it to him. I respected the way he played. And I wanted to make sure that he understood that the jury had certain sentiments about how he played, and that if he just really owned up to it and really took complete and total ownership of it and stopped doing the like, I'm a Christian man, I'm bound by honor, thing, that he would have won the game. But he kept with his like, I'm an honorable man situation, and nobody bought that. And it was unfortunate that he didn't see that from my side, that he couldn't see that the jury had a lot of that the jury was really pretty bitter, and that's like Edna, Brandon, obviously everybody who was on the other side, Keith and Whitney and Cochran and like all of them, didn't really have a chance to, well, Cochran did, but everyone else who was on the Savai'i tribe, they didn't really have a chance to get to know coach. So they weren't going to really vote for him, but they might have if he had owned up to his game. And so I think to this day, I have a lot of regret that I feel like I did all I could to convince coach to be more responsible, but you know, it's it's tough. Like I really feel like either myself or coach should have won that game. I don't think it should have been Sophie or anyone else really.
Yeah, I mean, also with his game, like honor and integrity or such, like can be such subjective things, you know? Like you could argue that the honorable thing
Yeah.
would be taking you to the end with him, you know, because as the other returning player, like there's so many different angles that you can view it at. And I feel like his mistake was not realizing that it's not black and white, honor and integrity. Like everyone on the jury is going to have a different perspective on what that looked like.
Oh, 100%. But really when you get down to those last moments that all you have left is to look people in the eye and tell them that, yeah, you lied to them to get further in the game. And you used Brandon's crazy, um, hardline Christian viewpoints against the whole entire tribe. Brandon kind of hijacked that season up until the moment he went out of the game. And I think coach is a Christian, but he really, really played into that energy. And, that's why people are calling a lot of people say it's like that cult. It has the cult vibes, because coach is smart enough to see that energy and was able to use that as a major force in the decision making. Brandon was kind of this unstoppable force, and coach got right behind him, and he played from the shadows, which is a very smart way to play, especially when you're playing with someone as such a loose cannon. Brandon is such a loose cannon. I I have a lot of respect for how coach handled him because St. Brandon is such a strong personality. So, at the end of the day, you just got to be able to look people in the eye and say, yeah, I lied to your face and I am a better player than you. And I'm sitting here. And people respect that much more than trying to sit with a lie that you told them.
Yeah, and I mean that's Survivor. That's what's good TV, you know? Like tell someone to their face that you lied to them to win $1 million. Of course you did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
It's good TV.
exactly.
So what
Yeah.
would your jury pitch have been had you made it to the end?
I don't think I had to have a pitch, honestly. I think I could have just said I played a game that was, true to the way that I've always wanted to play Survivor, and that is, just through um, surviving in the wild and winning challenges. And I know that's boring to a lot of people, but it's the way that I in that season trying to play with Keith and Jim and Cochran. You know, they had it out for me, and I didn't have any power, so I had to do whatever I could just to make it through. And so playing big risky moves and using Redemption Island as my almost as my foil was the only way that I could really get through to the end.
Yeah, and in the live finale, it seemed like you were pretty at peace with the fact that Sophie beat you in that last challenge. And that's like, and even in our set visit last interview last year, you said that like you couldn't solve a puzzle when you needed to, and that's just the game of Survivor, right? So, but where do you stand now about coach voting you out instead of letting it go to a tie? Are you at peace with that?
It took me many, 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 many years to become at peace with it. You know, Survivor has this funny way of it's the greatest gift, but it can also be your worst nightmare. So, you know, being able to get up and have like this beautiful view of the world, and you think that you already start spending the money and, thinking of all the amazing things you can do, and then all of a sudden it's taken away, and those regrets they're harsh and they're hard to deal with. And I had a lot of resentment for coach for many, many, many years. And then you sort of these sentiments start to die down, and real life regrets start to replace them. So I did hold it against him for a while, but at the same time, I'm not one of those people to blame others for my mistakes. So, coach just did what he thought he just did what he thought was best for his game. And I don't I after a few years, I wasn't really that upset with him. I was more upset with his trash talking after the season and his resentment against me for what he thought was me, you know, poisoning the jury. And that's just that to be able to poison the jury, it's you've got to be a pretty you have to have a pretty flimsy point of view in your gameplay to let somebody completely change the way you're going to vote. I don't think that happens that often. I think people are pretty know who they're going to vote for going into final tribal, and some people are right on the fence and they can be persuaded, but you're not going to be persuaded. Like, I was not doing any politicking at Ponderosa trying to get coach, eliminated. Like I who was I gonna be on Sophie's champion? Not really. And I wasn't sure, so I wasn't gonna be Albert's champion. So I was trying to be coach's champion. If anything, I was trying to do him a service. So I just felt like it was in poor taste that he decided to be take it personal after the game was over.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask about that next because he's been bringing that up even in his season 50 preseason interviews. I don't know if you've seen that, but it has come up.
I'm sure it has, and I really appreciate Coach. And having had the chance to actually play with him, he's a very different person than he was in 23. It's so many years have passed. He's a different person. He's sort of a lot of fun to be around. He's got a lot of stories. He's an amazing linguist. He's got that gift of gab. He's like he would have been a bard in another life, like traveling around with his lute, like singing songs to people. So yeah, Coach is an amazing character, and he is a great guy. Um, but sometimes those are the most dangerous people in Survivor.
Yeah. So, what was your reaction to seeing him on the 50 cast list?
My reaction was, I hope we get to play together. I hope we get to put water into the bridge and alchemize our sort of sour relationship into something that could potentially be sweet for both of us.
Did you hope that you'd end up on the same tribe to begin with?
That's a good question. I don't think I thought about that. I didn't think that we would end up on the same tribe just because I really thought the way they were going to cast us is I would be with people that I'd never played with before. I was really surprised that I was put on the same tribe as Suri. Um, because Suri and I obviously we have history. So I thought that was a little bit of an odd choice, but at the same time, I was appreciative of that because Suri and I do have a little bit of a relationship, and I didn't had no relationship with Devins or Christian or Savannah or Emily or Joe. So getting to know all of them and Jenna, it was very much it was a blessing. Um, so short answer to that is I didn't really have any real expectation I was going to be on the same tribe as Coach. I just knew that Coach there that him and I would hopefully get a chance to at least because we hadn't seen each other since the finale of South Pacific. Like I've never seen him at events. I've never really talked to him.
Wow.
So just to be able to speak again after more than I guess more than a decade.
Yeah.
Be able to speak to each other and say, "Hey, man, sorry," and let's move forward.